With Slates?
Yeah, let me see. Jay, are we good to go? Yeah. Okay. Nice
yet?
enough to join us.
Oh,
yes.
all right.
Of course, from The Athletic. Wonder if he has any thoughts on what's going on with
he in Texas.
Yeah, he's in Houston, right?
Yeah.
It's Anthony Slater. How you doing, Slates?
I'm good. I'm on a pool deck it's a lazy river shaped like Texas. It's very famous here. The Marriott Marquis here, right near the Astros Stadium, and it's just a monster pool shaped in the size or in the shape of Texas.
Gotcha. So the calm before the storm, right? Because things might get a little heated on the floor tonight.
Maybe, it felt like a mildly tame in game one. There was a little Sengun Draymond mix up, but Dylan Brooks was tame enough. I mean, it's physical defense, but there wasn't enough arguments and fireworks.
Mm-hmm. Anthony Slater joining us. Slates, we don't give a damn about the Warriors, man. We're trying to talk about the Kings right now.
Yeah, there you go.
Right.
Yeah.
We had a big day here in Sacramento
with
Scott Perry. Did you at all catch any of the press conference?
Yes.
What did you make of it? Give me. Yeah.
Yeah. It was pretty forthright. He's been on TV a little bit recently, right? You could tell. I mean, he's a good talker, smooth, and came with like kind of some firm answers and directions, and even talking about the Doug Christie thing like that, just to even say, hey, I want to decide in the next week. Like, you don't get that a lot from management in the NBA, like giving you a timeline like that. Usually it's much more vague. Mm-hmm. So, again, I think Kings fans and fans of all sports have learned, like, you don't win, or you can win press conferences, but that does not win ball games. But I thought it was a good press conference.
Slates, what did you think of the fact that he kind of danced around the questions on autonomy a little bit? And I know, because I asked one of them, what's your guess here? How much autonomy do you think Scott Perry or anybody has working for Vivek Ranadive at this point?
Good question, right? That's a level of it. I mean, his voice will be heard early on. I think part of the reason, it seems like with Monty, like his autonomy dwindled in the years. Like, he had more early on, right? Making the Domantas Sabonis trade, making the Mike Brown hire. I think as the failure of the last year and a half, whatever, kind of piled up, I think he lost some of that autonomy. So I think Perry probably comes in with Vivek listens to people. The question is, who is he? It's always, who is he listening to at the time? And right now, I will just say, it seems like Scott Perry comes in with a fresh slate, and he's somebody that Vivek will listen to for at least now.
Okay. Slade says Perry did talk about getting a point guard, desperate need of a point guard. How do you think they'll go about doing that, considering their situation? And are there any point guards on the move that you can think about right now?
De'Aaron Fox, pretty good.
Wow. From the top rope.
That's one of the major, that is the major failure of the last year, you'd probably say, right? They lost their star franchise point guard. Like, it just is what it is. We don't need to rehash how it happened, but it happened. It's going to be difficult, because there's not going to be, in my opinion, I don't know how they go out and find like a real needle moving point guard. They'll get, probably placeholder type point guards, and, maybe that's moving a contract like, DeRozan someplace that gets you in the door, a middle of the road, like 22nd best starting point guard in the league type player, or, if DeRozan to Miami for Terry Rozier or something like that, does that do it for you? Probably not really. They'll get somebody in the door, but they don't have a first round pick. And to me, they don't have the trade assets to go hunting down like a high level point guard. They've traded two out the door over the last 4 years in Halliburton and Fox. So it's kind of the flaw of the roster that, at least for now, I don't really know how they fix it to such a degree that point guard is such a positive. They just need a point guard at this point.
Well, let me ask you about a specific guy I just brought up and threw out there as a stopgap, somebody you're familiar with.
We've seen him a lot this year.
Yeah, we saw him in Golden State. What do you make of Dennis Shruder? Going to be a free agent, I believe, just as a stopgap, I'm saying, Slates, not as the answer, the end-all, be-all, maybe a mid-level kind of guy. What do you make of somebody of that ilk, if you will?
Yeah, I like Shruder. He didn't work for the Warriors, partly because you have to play a certain way with the Warriors, which isn't a Dennis Shruder way, which is like, split cut action and, pin down screens for Steph Curry and Like it's, you have to be a certain type of player or else it doesn't. But if you look at his other 2 stops this year, Brooklyn, he was great. He was so good, Brooklyn had to trade him because they needed to lose games. He was winning them games. And then, you're seeing what he's doing as kind of an off-the-bench guy in Detroit right now. Problem is he's kind of shoot first.
Mm-hmm.
And he's worked well as a starter either on bad teams or as a bench guy on good teams. If you're talking about him coming in and being like the table setting starting point guard for the Kings, it's a little bit of a miscast because I think he's going to want to shoot, right? He's going to want to run pick and rolls, and I do think he could do some of that with Sabonis, and there is somewhat of a fit. But also, if you're talking about also Levine still on the roster, also DeRozan still on the roster, also Malik Monk still on the roster, like again, like you need to go find a pass first, set the table type point guard. And I'm not sure Shruder is that, but again, it's not a bad name for their lack of resources that they're going to have.
Yeah. Slate's following up on something we've talked about before, and you kind of referenced it. I mean, how robust would you guess the market would be for DeMar DeRozan if the Kings were in fact interested, and if he was interested in going somewhere else?
I don't think that robust. I mean, I think we're talking about flipping similar length contracts, to teams that are also, maybe have disappointing type seasons and are trying to just rearrange the veterans on the roster. And I think you could, if you surveyed the landscape, you could probably find, a fit where that team needs more of like kind of a scoring wing, and maybe you get a point guard that way because maybe they're like, again, I mentioned Rozier, right? He's had a disappointing year in Miami. Miami has at least been rumored to be interested in DeRozan in the past, something like that. But if you want to, really maybe like get a younger upgrade type, I mean, you could throw a first-round pick. You could attach a first-round pick to him. I'm not sure you should be in the business of trading future first, but, with Cam Johnson's name, right? We've talked about forever. What about flipping those two and adding a first? Like the Nets aren't necessarily interested in, adding DeMar DeRozan to a tanking team, but they're interested in a first-round pick. So if you want to sweeten it, then maybe. But the problem is you just sent out a first-round pick swap to San Antonio to get DeMar DeRozan in the door. You don't want to then attach a pick to him to get him out the door.
Yeah. Anthony Slater joining us here. He talked about Doug Christie a little bit, talking about Scott Perry today, and said his phone has been ringing off the hook about this job. But what do you make of that? And, I said after the press conference, I thought the odds of Doug returning went down a little bit. How did you feel about that?
From my understanding, Doug's in a pretty good place. And, we reported that, right after, Monty McNair got fired. And we put the report out that obviously labeled Perry as the front runner. He had the job within the day. I think Doug does have a good chance of this, number one, because I think he has some momentum from the people that matter in the organization, Vivek. And, I know Vlade doesn't have necessarily an official title, but he matters. And the sense is that he, wants to potentially give Doug a shot. And also, like, if we're just honest, like, just dollars and cents, like, Doug theoretically would, in the coaching market come cheap, and they're paying Mike Brown a lot of money next year already. So I think that probably, benefits Doug. And I think, again, the other thing is, and if you're a GM, you don't necessarily want to start the clock sometimes on, like, your hire, right? I think if you're Scott Perry, you can give Doug Christie a chance next year. If he succeeds, that's great. If he doesn't, then your clock on your coaching hire doesn't necessarily start till the following year. You know what I mean? But it also doesn't. If they're still wanting to wait and see, and there's a lot of like intriguing coaching candidates that were let go this year, right? Including Taylor Jenkins. Name your veteran coach out there. It's probably beneficial to at least look around, but again, my sense, and maybe I'll be proven wrong, but my sense is I think Doug does get a crack at this job next year.
All right. Anthony Slater from The Athletic. Slates, I want to ask you about this. I thought Monty did a good job. I thought he left the team in a better place than they were when they started. He's gone now, I know, but in what ways will Scott Perry benefit the organization, given that he's just a lot more comfortable and a lot better with getting out in front of people and talking about all this? He's way better at that than Monty. Now, that doesn't help you win any more games, but given that the Kings struggle sometimes with imaging, how valuable do you think that might be to them?
I mean, we'll see. It can be. I think, maybe that's probably more important as far as like relationship building with agents and players and some of the messaging behind the scenes. But it's going to come down to like the moves, right? If some of the draft picks over the last few years hit better if if they were able to swing a trade for Pascal Siakam or OG Anunoby at a time where it felt like they had a chance. Like, it wouldn't really matter how well or not well Monty was messaging to the public. If they're winning games, they're winning games.
Yeah.
So to me, it's about closing the correct deal at a time that you're going to need to. But it's a difficult job Scott Perry's walking into, rearranging a roster that for an organization that still has win now desires, where, like, we've talked about it every week, right, for the last probably couple months. Like, you could make the argument that a full rebuild should be in the cards, but we kind of know that they're not going to. So it's a difficult job.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, speaking of how difficult it is, when can Kings fans expect this organization to be returned to respectability, sniffing the playoffs? Are we one move away? Is it going to take a couple of years? What do you think?
Well, sniffing, like, they sniffed the playoffs this year, right? And I think it seems to me the plan is to mostly run the roster back and try to, sharpen around the edges, get a point guard that fits better, believe a camp with some of their main guys might help, and, kind of go for it again next year. So, I think some of the stuff that happened this year really hurt their reputation, particularly how the Mike Brown stuff was handled, and obviously just like the aftermath of the De'Aaron Fox situation. But I still think if you make this, proper fringe rotation, mid-rotation moves, and Sabonis has a good year and Levine kind of stays healthy and efficient from three, like, they should be probably in the play-in mix again next year, which to me, like, you're a respectable team and you're probably going to be playing another important playing game in Golden One Center. And again, I don't know that's like, I don't see long-term contending status with this core. But to me, to get to that, you got to completely redo what's going on, and they don't seem motivated to do that. So to answer your question, I don't know if that to you is respectability, but I think that's what they're heading towards next year, which is kind of in that playing bracket again.
Yeah, Slates, I thought it was really interesting that Scott Perry talked today about consistently being competitive. That's the goal. He never once mentioned, we want to win a championship. So neither here nor there, but it did stand out to me. Thanks, Slates. We appreciate it as always. Enjoy the game. We look forward to your coverage, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right, fellas.
All right, Slade.
Appreciate it. Now,